going on.
Now, Nick, to add insult to injury, somebody was talking to me the other day about this certification process for wood. And they told me that, in fact, this is not actually done here in Canada, that you have to take, the lumber has to be taken south, and they do this in the States, whether it's treating the wood or whatever, and then it's shipped back.
I don't know whether that's completely accurate or not, Joseph.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is because we have a lot of sawmills around here, and they do grade their own lumber. Now, maybe there's a certain circumstance with a particular kind of wood or treatment of wood.
Right.
Let's say if you woolmanize it, that might be the case, but not as a general rule. I have a friend of mine, that's what he does. He works in a mill and he grades lumber.
Okay.
When I spent 4 days working for a lumber mill last summer, running the planer, they had graders right there on the boardway, and they graded them, one select grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, all based on the quality of the wood. And it was those guys who put their, they would wrap it up and then get it ready for export. So I don't know. I've never heard that before. I do know there are products like that. The gasoline, we send our crude oil down to the States. They turn it into gasoline, send it back to us because we don't have enough refining capacity to feed the country. I know that's, or at least I think that's true. And so I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Well, I just thought I'd introduce that. Somebody, as I said, had that was in the business was telling me. So perhaps I didn't understand it fully. But in any event, the fees, the permits, the taxes, everything administratively that goes into the development, the building of houses, etc., or the renovation even of houses today, all adds to the cost artificially. It's not the actual construction labor, and it's not the actual material. It's all of the government fees and etc. that add on to the price. So government itself and government policy has to take its share of the responsibility for having driven up and continuing to drive up the cost of housing. Now, it's not all government's fault. I'm not suggesting that. And there are always going to be, people at the lower end of the income spectrum who are going to have difficulty making ends meet, and perhaps they're going to have difficulty affording housing. And so now the question becomes, what role, if any, the government plays acting as our agents in alleviating that particular circumstance.
Well, the way to deal with...
I have to say, it's okay. I have to say, Nick, I'm open-minded about this. I'm always skeptical, when what somebody once said, the most frightening 9 words of the English language, right? I'm from the government and I'm here to help you.
Yeah, I think it was Ronald Reagan.
I'm skeptical, and I worry that that government's attempt to fix the problem through housing subsidies and through actual construction and ownership of so-called social housing, that does this contribute to the problem? I worry about that, and I particularly worry about it because my sense is that the people in government and outside of government who argue for government programs to alleviate the so-called housing crisis and to address homelessness, my sense is that most of them are arguing this from an ideological point of view as opposed from a data point of view, if I could use that term. In other words, they have this concept of the government stepping in and saving the day, and they're not asking themselves, would this action by the government actually save the day, or will it contribute to the problem, make the problem worse? And in many cases, government intervention actually, while it's done for the right reasons, actually exacerbates the problem. So I'm not sure about this, the right response.
To me, the answer is really easy to get to. What did we do before the government stuck its nose in this? Because homelessness has been with us since as long as there's been man walking the earth. And there's been different ways to deal with it. But let's go back 200 years. And when someone's house burned down or someone, some catastrophe befell them, they lost their job, couldn't pay, what happened? Well, the community would come together. It's where a lot of your service clubs come from. And maybe not even, some of them don't go back quite 200 years, but, there's a lot of them that are quite old. And they would step up and the community would gather around that family and have, fundraisers, or they would gather together if somebody lost everything in a fire. Because remember something, when you lost a table and chair in a fire 200 years ago, you just didn't go to Leon's and buy a new one. You had to hand make that. That's why fires were so devastating, because everything was made by hand and sometimes took years to begin to build up any kind of amount of furniture. And it was that's why it's so well made, because it had to last. So anyway, the community would get together and look after them. And service clubs were formed to make sure that they got the food and the clothing they needed so they weren't freeze to death. People didn't just suddenly become compassionate in the last 50 years. They've always been that way. We just didn't need the government to tell us how to do it. So I would suggest that the first thing the government could do is get out of our way. Stop putting roadblocks in front of organizations who who are committed to helping people get back on their feet. Like, if you have a church supper, okay, and the idea is to have, let's say somebody's been burned out. It happens. We have a few house fires every year out here, as a lot of municipalities do. Well, the regulations that the organizations who want to put this on have to jump through. There's health concerns. You've got food safety inspections, all that. Like, I'm not saying in and of themselves that's bad, but look, the little old ladies who make that pot of potato salad have been doing it for 70 years. They know how to do it. Get out of their way. Let them do what they do. And the community can look after itself. But when you do that, now you don't need the government, and the government can't stand that. So that's why they get in the way, and it's only making things worse.
Nick, you're a cynic.
No, you know what I am? I'm a realist. I realize that the government is 9 times out of 10, if they stick their nose in it, paperwork's going to go up, frustration's going to go up, drinking's going to go up. Well, maybe not drinking, but you know what I mean? All the things, it just becomes a headache. Look at the life of a doctor right now. I don't know for sure what the percentage is, but a large percentage of their day is consumed not at seeing patients and disseminating medicine. It's paperwork. And it's all government related. Hand out an aspirin, there's 14 forms to fill out. Look at what a cop has to go through if he pulls his revolver or pulls his pistol. An hour and a half worth of paperwork just because he pulled his pistol to shoot a deer on the side of the road because it was hit by a car. God help us if he has to do it in defense of some innocent being against a criminal. And that's why, if you call me a cynic, fine, but that's where it comes from. It's just there's so much nonsense that eventually it just overwhelms you.
Well, I hear you, and as I said, I'm a skeptic, and I do appreciate what you're saying in terms of people helping people, and how hard it is for people, to just go and help your neighbor, it's look, even coming down to the simple thing of my neighbor or somebody in my community, their family was burned out, and so I'm going to let them live with me and my family for a month or 2 months until they get resituated, and even in a circumstance like that, you probably have by law enforcement people coming down on you and saying you can't have two families living in a dwelling that's been approved only for one family. And how many bedrooms do you have? How many people are living per bedroom? I mean, I honestly don't know if there are any bylaws around this, but I'm sure there must be bylaws.
Well, don't
regarding
give me any ideas.
There must be some bylaw requiring the minimum number of bathrooms per people living in the house. I just don't know.
And now you're treading on private property rights, right? Like if I want to invite a family into my home, who's the government to tell me I can't? I'm the one that's got to live with it.
No, I understand it, but this is the point I'm making. It's difficult today to exercise private charity. Other than giving money, there's no problem giving money. You want to write a check to your favorite charity, go for it. And write as much as you want. You may only get a limited amount of that back as a tax credit because there are limits to what you could claim for charitable contributions, or what the tax benefit would be for charitable contributions. But there's no limit on what you could give to a charity. So write a check. But in terms of actually exercising charitable behavior, there are many, many impediments and limitations that the government and obstacles that the government has put up. So it's very difficult to do that these days. In a sense, you kind of wonder what the effect is of not having the opportunity to exercise those charitable muscles from time to time. Anyway, I'm just looking at the time, Nick. It's coming up here at the top of the hour. So I think we're going to go for our next break, if you don't mind. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to the live show, thank you very much, and stay with us. And we will be back in a few minutes here on the Nick and Joe Show on the Think Radio Broadcast Network.